Atiku and Obi have said that they are going to challenge the tribunal judge and taking it up to the higher court, which is the Supreme Court. Good morning and welcome to the Dailies on Echo Television International. We will be keeping you updated with quite a number of stories on the paper that are of interest to you, so we'll encourage you to sit tight. You can follow us on our social media by dropping your comment on Facebook and on YouTube, and then later when the time is right, we will open the phone line so you can call in and also, air your view on any of the story that is of interest to you. I am Celia Elisha, and I'll be doing this together with Rachel Tanzay. Good morning.
Morning, Celia.
How you doing?
I'm fine. How about you?
Great, thank you so much. We'll go right straight into the paper, starting with the Friday Leadership newspaper. And the big story on Friday Leadership paper: we will fight on, Atiku Obi say after a tribunal verdict. With the writer, head to the Supreme Court in search of justice. I lost the battle, won't lost the war ahead, ex-VP declares. Struggle for justice continues, says the Labour Party candidate. Lawyers differ on judgment. You can draw to find more detail of the story on page 4 of the Friday Leadership newspaper. And on the what's trending on the paper, we have Shaibu lawsuit withdrawal, first step toward peace. And on the numbers, we have poverty eradication will reduce insecurity by 50% coming from the federal government. And we have on illegal mining, 30 killed in Abuja landslide, where we see that at least 30 people have been reportedly killed in a landslide caused by an activities of illegal mining in Guje area, council of the Federal Capital Territory. And so you can do well to find more of that story on the front page and continue on page 7. Gabon Junta leader released Bongo from the house arrest. Yesterday we saw in the paper that he's actually free to go abroad if he wishes to. Doctor arrested for harvesting woman's organ in Plateau State. Wow, that's a sad one for the human angle. You can do well to find more detail of that on page 16 of the paper. 14 officers, 9 soldiers face army court-martial in Abuja. More detail can be found on page 14. Akeredolu returns from Germany. Wow, people of Ondo must be excited after being away for quite a number of months, and he's finally coming back from Germany. We wish him quick recovery. You can find more detail of that on page 18. The picture story here we can see is the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Elevation admiring a local cap made by a girl during her visit to the women and girls safe space provided by UNICEF at Muna Displaced Persons Camp in Maiduguri yesterday. You can do well to find more detail of any of the story that is of interest to you.
On New Telegraph, weak reserves. Fitch project external risks challenges for Nigeria, says federal government reforms unlikely to be smooth. Customs blacklist banks over breach of agreement. This is on remittances, and you can find more details on page 8. Lagos Assembly again rejects 2 Sanwo-Olu's commissioners' nominees. 83 health workers abducted by bandits in Katsina. Minister orders NIS to dare passport padlock within 2 weeks. Akeredolu returns after 3 months medical leave. You can find more details on page 4 and 5. The big story on the paper: PEPT's affirmation of Tinubu's victory. Atiku Obi head for Supreme Court to appeal judgment. Justice not served, I can't endorse illegality, says Atiku. As Obi disagrees with court's reasoning, conclusions reject government of national unity. Judgment generous in technicalities, short in justice. A statement coming from PDP. We have NAS should amend relevant laws to correct ambiguities. This is coming from the ACF. You can find more details on page 2. Tribunal affirms Adiola as elected senator for Ogun West. Chaos gridlock at Lagos Airport as airlines relocate to new terminal. You can find more details on page 2 and 6. Nigeria lost 16.25 trillion naira to crude oil theft in 11 years. Statement coming from the reps. 814 terrorists killed, 4,000 560 others surrendered in 3 months. This is coming from the defense headquarters, as we have 4,444 arms and ammunition recovered. Army to set court-martial 14 officers, 9 soldiers for various offenses. More details can be found on page 5 and 6. Still on New Telegraph, Nigeria needs new indigenous constitution. A statement from Ezehume warns federal government against leading and joining ECOWAS to wage war. More details of the statement can be found on page 4. The downside of the paper, we have a study that says high toxic metals in marijuana pose heart risks for those consuming such substances. Take note and find more details of the study on page 27 of New Telegraph, and that's all the news on the paper.
On the Voice of Liberty tribunal verdict, now I can focus on my vision, coming from the President Tinubu. Nigeria's refining capacity crashes to 6,000 barrels per day, coming from OPEC. You can find more detail of that story in the paper. And on the ear, coming from Katsina State, Governor Rada rules out negotiation with bandits, recruit 1,000, 5,000 community watch corps. You can find more in the paper. The big story on presidential election petition, PDP reject tribunal judgment, is bereft of justice, coming from Atiku. The People's Democratic Party and its candidate in the February 25, 2023 presidential election, Atiku Abubakar, have rejected the judgment of the Presidential Election Petition Court upholding the election of President Bola Tinubu. You can find more detailed in the paper. The two judgments I heard are the two best this country has ever heard, coming from Robert Clark, San 85. And still on the PEPC verdict, judgment will deepen Nigeria's democracy, coming from Efenifera. You can find more in the paper. And also we have Amend Electoral Act, conclude litigation before swearing in of winners, CUPP tells the National Assembly. Nigeria loses 16.25 trillion naira to crude oil theft, coming from the Speaker, House of Reps, Abbas. You can find more detail of that story in the paper, and that's all on the Voice of Liberty.
On Vanguard, the big story, election tribunal judgment meets reaction as Atiku Obi head to Supreme Court. You can find more details on page 5. Nigeria's fiscal deficit to decline in the third quarter and the fourth quarter of 2023. A report coming from the NPC. 30 killed in Abuja landslide, 19 kidnapped. NNPCL not opposed to sale of Ajib shares to Owando. A statement coming from a spokesman. We have raging storm over failed federal roads in Edo State. Nigeria poor in leadership and management. A statement coming from the president himself. You can find more details on page 9. Crude oil theft, Nigeria lost 16.25 trillion naira in 11 years. A statement from a speaker of the reps. Telecom sectors add 16% to GDP in the second quarter of 2023. Food insecurity widespread nationwide as Lagos, Borno, 3 others top chart. We have a column by Awela Kemfa. You can find more details on page 17. And for sports on page 31 says CAF congratulate Osimhen on Ballon d'Or nomination, and we're looking forward to see if he will get the award. And that's all the news on Vanguard newspaper.
Well, for the issue of the tribunal, Rachel, we thought we're done, but
We
it's obvious.
thought so.
Yesterday I said it that
Yeah.
these candidates are still bereaved. They are still not happy with the
Yeah.
judgment. Somebody called it a computer judgment, you know, and quite a number of, will I say, statements coming from people, lawyers, and quite a number of people, what they felt about the election. And well, they're free to go to the appeal court. That is what the law has provided.
Yes.
That. But then other people come from that school of thought and saying that, is that not waste of resources and time? I mean, what do you expect? But then it is their right. They have the right to actually appeal to the higher court, which is the Supreme Court in our case here, to actually have a hearing. We've seen where the Supreme Court has overturned certain judgment coming from the appeal court. So of course they still have hope, especially the presidential candidate of the PDP said that he has not lost trust in the judiciary. He still believes that judiciary can actually serve justice, even though the appeal court had given their judgment, but he's not satisfied with the judgment coming from them. So the Labour Party have also said the same thing. He said he will look into it, and then his lawyers can also take it up and take it to the Supreme Court. But just like I said, there are a number of lessons for us to learn. Just like we're seeing a number of stories coming up, what the Electoral Act is, what is expected of it. And even though Nigerians have expressed anger over the fact that the court said that INEC is not mandated to actually display the results electronically, and Nigerians have asked the question, why do we have to spend billions of naira to actually make sure that it was electronically? And they were coming out to say that it is not mandated for them to do that, even though they promise us they have all that it takes and all of that. So right now I think the wait have begun again. We have another way to see how the this whole thing will come up with the tribunal. But I'm looking at the fact that we'll come to a place. The president said something here. He said Nigeria is poor in leadership and management, and I'm happy it's coming from our very own president. The fact that he has realized that Nigeria, and if you ask me, I think it's not just a Nigeria problem, it's an African problem, where we lack leadership. Are you talking about resources? We have all that it takes. If not, places like Gabon shouldn't have even resulted to coup, because it's one of those countries that have very rich mineral resources if you're going to look at it. But then we've seen that it seems we're sitting on gold, we're sitting on a lot of mineral resources we do not know, and then we have to rely on other people to come and let us know that this is what we have in our own country. So I think it's high time we put our heads together. Let us develop our leadership. Let us see growth. If we say we want to practice democracy, I'll keep emphasizing on this, then we need to get it right. And then if we feel that democracy is not the right system of government for us, then maybe as a continent, Africa, we should come together and see what system of government suits us better, and how can we do it better, and then get it where we don't have to copy other Western nation to actually do things, and then we are not getting it right eventually. But if we want to copy them, then let us do it properly by getting everything proper. So let's keep our fingers crossed and see how this whole thing upholds. Let's see how it unfolds, whether it will get to the Supreme Court, what will the judgment be there. But we just hope that at the end of the day, Nigerians should not soil themselves dirty in this politicians fight eventually. We do not know what goes behind the curtain. So rather than taking side with any of these politicians, let's just pray and hope that if they want to go to the Supreme Court, then judgment will actually come out well. We'll see that justice will be served to them at the end of the day.
Of course, Sele, we can't say these politicians shouldn't appeal or take it to a higher court. However, I'm hoping that when they finally decide to appeal and take it to a higher court, that they have more evidence. You can't appeal with the same, like, going, those evidence are for sure concrete evidence, but I hope you have bigger and stronger evidence enough to make this court to look into your case and give it another new hearing and probably a new set of everything, proceedings and all of that. So I just hope if the PDP are saying they're not okay with this and they're going back, they have more bigger evidence than what they have, that the petition tribunal have already said they are putting it down and all of that. Because one thing is for sure is that there is a system, and it's all about bringing evidence, proofs and facts. That's what they will work with. And if you're taking it to a higher level and a higher place, just because you felt what they said at that time doesn't matter, doesn't mean they will start regarding it now. You have to come bigger and stronger. And that's what I'm looking forward to the Labour Party, if they are doing that, and the PDP and whatever other party will say we are not okay with this. I just hope that when you are going there, you're bringing more facts, bigger proofs and all those things to make this case file what reopening again, and then the judgment being changed on the long run. And then concerning management and leadership, when I hear such statement coming from our leaders is just simple talk is cheap, because I keep saying it that we have all the resources it takes to fix the things we need to fix in this country. And I believe that our leaders know exactly where the problem is and exactly what the solution is. However, we allow some things slide because we are still yet to have an era of selfless leaders. So if we are going to tell ourselves the truth, we are yet to have an era of selfless leaders. One simple clear example out there for us is even with the rising cost and low standard of living, rising cost of living and the standard of living going high, we are having leaders that are seated still doing nothing in their constitution in their constituency, doing nothing in their whatever region they represent. If you haven't done anything but you are out there talking about your allowances, beefing one another because this house got and that house didn't got and didn't get their allowance and all of that, and these are some of the little things you have refused to cut down the cost of governance, even when it comes to your own welfare, to trying to put a system where you can accommodate other Nigerians. And so if I see a government that is going back and forth, even with making sacrifices in what it means to govern and all of that, then I realize that until we one day wake up and have leaders that are selfless and are really willing to make the sacrifice and be servants rather than rulers, then we will start seeing better leadership and management of things in this country and even in Africa entirely. But I believe for sure that they do know what exactly are the problems and the things that need the fixing, and of course we have the resources to fix this problem in this country. So it's all about the government doing the needful if they truly want to see a better country in Africa entirely.
Well, we look forward to seeing a country that we all want to stay back in and develop, because it's not a one-man business, it's for everybody. Let's take a look at the Daily Independent newspaper, where we have troops kill 814 terrorists, arrest 1,326 criminals, 42 kidnappers. You can start reading more detail of that story on the front page and continue on page 29. We have 120 billion naira debt. NCC, CBN settled disagreement between telcos and banks. You can start also reading that on the front page and more on page 6. The big story for Daily Independent: Atiku Obi reject tribunal's ruling, head to the Supreme Court. PEPC failed to restore confidence, coming from Atiku Abubakar. Peter Obi says no relenting on his quest for justice. You can find that also on page 29. Tribunal judgment a miscarriage of justice, coming from Herua. You can find more on page 29 as well. We have a story here that says APC asks Nigerians to join hands with Tinubu to confront governance challenges. More inside the paper. Expect strong wind, heavy rainfall for 3 days. Nimet is warning. Well, I hope the states staying close to the desert area, the likes of Bauchi State and other states that are close to the lowlands, will actually take this warning seriously. They are saying there's going to be heavy rain for 3 days, even though they did not state the days. But I think it's time that we all take serious concern and also take all of this warning seriously. You can find more on page 7 as well. Akeredolu returns from medical leave after 3 months. More can be found on page 7. You can find that inside the paper. And on insecurity, we need prayer to succeed, said Defense Minister. Kidnappers, bandits on the run in Southeast. This is coming from the House of Reps. More can be found also on page 7. Excuse me. Leadership deficit pushed me to contest for president. This is coming from Tinubu, still in relation to what he said about Nigeria lacking management and leadership. And we have here, I am not going into retirement. Atiku reply Shetima. You can find more of that on page 6. Downside of the paper, Nigeria Custom take action against defaulting dealer banks. More of that can be found on page 6. But before we move further, Richard, the issue of kidnapping, bandits, kept reflecting on the front page of Daily Independent. The first one here we're seeing is that troop killed about 814 terrorists and then arrested 1,000. And I think there was a paper where we saw about quite a number of them, surrendering their arms and also saying they really want to repent. And I'm happy when I hear that. But here we see the defense minister saying they need prayers. Of course, our prayers is needed. We cannot do without this. But prayer without work is useless. Nigerians have been praying. Churches have gone into fasting. Mosques have even, called people together to pray. So regardless of whichever religion you belong to, I think, we all owe our country and our armed force men prayers to pray for them to succeed. But we need to see work coming from them. We're seeing that on the paper. Quite a number of them will be court-martialed for one thing or the other. We really do not know what the offense is. But then it is important I'll put our hands together. This is not the first time we're seeing that there are some kidnappers, terrorists that are surrendering and they have gone into rehabilitation. And we keep asking how sure we are. Nigerians have a way of expressing their fears. How sure are we that these people have truly repent? How sure are we they're not trying to get into the system, know how the system is working, and then go back and report to the people they are working with. So I'm happy when we see surrendering. I'm happy when our defense are saying they need prayers. But in as much as Nigerians are praying for them, we hope to see that they do what is expected of them to do. We're expecting that they get the backing coming from the minister. We're hoping they get the backing even coming from the federal government to do what they need to do. Here we're seeing even from the southeast, they're expressing fear. The fact that kidnappers and bandits are on the run over there. So that is to say quite a lot is going on there. IPOP is still something they are fighting in the southeast there. So quite a number of things are happening over there. One section of the country, one zone is going through one thing, while one zone is looking at kidnappers, another is looking at bandits, another is looking at IPOP. So quite a lot. So I hope that we give them the support they need. We are going to keep praying. Nigerians will keep praying, but we hope that they get the support they need. And then whoever is trying to say he or she have repented, we want to be sure you have truly repent, so that you don't get into the system and cause more havoc at the end of the day.
Sally, one of the major things to keep in tap on these people is just upgrading our system and the way we operate. If they have surrendered, it is good news. It's one way to say we are tired of the way of life we're living, and then we want a better Nigeria also. However, when you rehabilitate these people, empower them, that is the only way you make sure they don't go back to what they're doing. We're talking about people who grew in crime, who grew only knowing conflict, because we know how long Boko Haram started. We know how insurgency have been going on in this country. So we're looking at people whom this is the only way of life they know. So after the process of rehabilitation, empower them. Don't just rehabilitate them and let them go, because in the end, why did they enter into this? We have kidnappers that are out there as a source of making ends meet, as livelihood. We have mercenaries in this country that want to stop what they're doing, but then don't even know how to go about it, because they came into it for the money. After time, it's no longer profitable for them, and then they have to find a way out. They have to keep doing this, or even if they want to stop, they can't, because how do they make a living out of this? So when you have this, empower them. Don't just rehabilitate them and let them go out there, because by the time they can't make ends, they can't meet ends meet, they have to find a way to go back. Yes. So it's about doing the right thing. I keep saying we have a problem of not seeing things through 100% in this country, and that's why we haven't grown the way we should. We just feel it's okay to stop halfway. We do not strive for perfection when we are implementing things and doing things. So this is one thing. It's not just about, it is a good thing to rehabilitate them, but above all, empower them. Put them somewhere you can even actually keep tab on them, be it job, be it employment. Let people know that this is where this person is coming from. Keep an eye on them, so that even if we do have a concern that these people are trying to infiltrate the system for greater harm, as long as you put them in a position where other people can also keep eye on them, you are also doing your job and helping the country to make sure that this doesn't escalate to a new form of insecurity. So I just hope that the people that are with the responsibility of doing this job do the needful and follow it through. Let's strive for perfection when it comes to insecurity in this country.
Well, our fingers are crossed and we give the support needed to do
Yes,
what it
certainly.
needs to be done. And that's all on Daily Independent newspaper.
On First News newspaper, why Owl purse justice at Supreme Court. This is coming from Obi. He's telling us reasons why he is going to pursue justice up to the Supreme Court level. Do well to get the First News newspaper and find details of what he plans on doing. Tragedy hits Abuja, 30 killed in landslide, 19 others abducted. Wike expresses shock to meet DSS police on rescue of victims. FCT minister to collaborate with solid minerals counterpart Alake to tackle illegal mining. We have area council chairman lament menace of illegal miners, indiscriminate licensing of Chinese mining firms in Abuja. We have Ondo State Governor Rotimi Okereduro on board a flight from Germany back to Nigeria after a 3-month medical leave. This happened yesterday. Lagos Assembly confirms Omotoso Aboyemi, 13 other Sanwo-Olu commissioners. Then we have Okereduro returns from 3 months medical leave in Germany. We have a picture story showing that Iran for president to fight leadership deficit. A statement coming from Tinubu. Kwara, 31 states expected to witness heavy rain today. A report coming from Nimet. Clear 200,000 passports backlog within 2 weeks, minister orders immigration. And on the tribunal, I don't know who was giving PDP hope. A statement coming from Wike. We need your prayers, defense minister begs Nigerians. FCT police quell violence as DSS operative kills fashion designer. At the downside of the paper, Army court martials 14 officers and 9 soldiers. And that's all the news on First News newspaper.
Alright, let's take a look at the Punch newspaper where we have set up customer centers, federal governmental discourse. You can find more on page 19. And the probe here, reps summon NAMISA, MPA, NMPCL, and MDs and others. More of that can be found on page 23. Manufacturers pay 607 billion naira tax in 6 months coming from the NBS. The big story still on the tribunal judgment. APC Lapon's Atiku Obi opposition attacks INEC. Judgment devoid of justice, says the ex-VP. Obi opposition plan beavers hacking, APC insists. Petitioners legal term storm Court of Appeal for judgment certified true copy. You can find more in the paper. We have a picture story here. Passengers stranded as foreign airlines delay cancel flight at the MMIA. You can find that on page 27. What caused the delay and then what can be done. Akeredolu returns now in Ibadan. Ondo Assembly leader is saying custom intercepts 692 million naira drugs and others along Ibeju-Lekki waterways. You can find that on page 4. NIA demands security check on foreign poll observers. You can find that on page 27. And that is all on the Punch newspaper.
On Nigerian News Direct, Ejele Soro retains mandate of Ife Federal Constituency as court affirms election was free and fair. Presidential election petition, Atiku Obi reject judgment, head to Apex Court to justify claims. Judgment bereaved of substantial justice, a statement coming from Atiku. I shall not relent in quest for justice, a statement coming from Obi. More details can be found on page 21. Adeleke shuts down Osun Poly as suspended rector makes return. Lagos Assembly clears Omotoso Abayomi, 13 others as commissioners and rejects 2. Federal government issues 2 weeks deadline to immigration to clear over 200,000 passport application. You can find more details on page 3. And at the downside of Nigerian News Direct, despite challenges, Nigeria's telecom sector experiences upward shift and contributes 16% to the GDP. And that's all the news on Nigerian News Direct.
Right before we continue with further analysis of the papers this morning, we'd love to take a break so we can let you through the stories and call us on any of the story that is of interest to you. Please stay tuned with us.
Democracy is the theory that common people know what they want and deserve to get it good and hard. Join me every Friday, 7 p.m. on National Talk for analysis as well as in-depth perspective on issues as they unfold in and around Nigeria, as well as an opportunity to add your voice.
Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, the program is the Dailies on Echo Television International. We've been looking at quite a number of stories where we've seen that opposition parties, Labour Party and PDP, have appealed to the higher court on the issue of the tribunal because they said they did not express confidence in what the appeal court judged. So you can do well to follow us by calling us on our number that is displayed on your screen at this moment. Please do remember to turn down the volume of your TV set when you call us. Try and summarize your point in a minute. And please, your contribution should be relevant to what we are talking about on the paper this morning. I still have Rachel Tanzi with me. Thank you so much,
You're
Rachel.
welcome, Sally.
All right, let's continue with the paper analysis, looking at the Metrics newspaper. Nigerian prosperity will derive directly from our diversity. This is coming from Tinubu. You can start reading on the front page and continue on page 3. Nigeria international trade deficit hit 5.81 trillion naira in the first half of 2021. You can do well to read more detail of that on page 3. Reaction continued to trade tribunal judgment. Obi Atiku kick head to the Supreme Court. Buhari, Akpabio, Wike and others jubilate, said it's the people's will. Afenifere also hails the judgment. You can find all of that story on page 2. Peter Obi funded our party $15 million, 12 billion naira campaign fund, Apapa Labour Party fraction alleges. You can find more detail of that allegation on page 8. Federal government loses 335 million naira to oil spill coming from the NOSDRA. And on the issue of the landslide that killed 30 and 19 being kidnapped in Abuja, you can find more detail on page 10. It's quite sad, Richard, and I think we have to talk a little about this. It's been reflecting on quite a number of our papers this morning. And I remember we have been talking about the issue of illegal mining. We've pushed hard about it. We've even seen the minister giving them a number of days, about 30 days, to actually get a proper license if you want to get into mining, and for those who are into illegal mining to leave the site as quick as possible. Now, you remember when we were talking about illegal mining, we said not only is it causing havoc to the country, but also we are losing lots of life to this, because after mining and then you get being killed, nobody even get to know about it.
Nobody.
We've heard parents, going on social media, going to various media stations to express, my son is missing, my daughter is missing, not knowing that this is what has happened there. You need to go to some of this mining pond, Rachel, and then you see how deep it goes. And then sometimes, because of the landsliding, the sand gets back into the pond, and then you're being covered. Automatic burial being done for you. So quite a number of people have lost their life to that. I know 1 or 2 of people that have died as a result of that here in Plateau State. So we need to really push hard about this. And I think this should not just be the responsibility of the government. What happened to the local government? What happened to working with even the vigilantes? They should not only be very vigilant when it comes to insecurity of invaders coming into their land, but they should also be vigilant about people that keep going and digging ponds illegally, mining, and then erosion is happening. See this flooding we're talking about. If you check it, it's still sinks down to not just those living by the waterside, but also to this pond that have been created, and the land keep washing away. So I hope that we speak strongly about this, because this is just one place in the FCT. We have many places that illegal mining is taking place. We see here that even the Chinese have been giving license. People are fighting and pushing against it. And sometimes when you go down north, you see that mostly is these foreigners that are coming to the land, pay the locals just few stipends of money,
Yes.
for them to give them what they were able to mine. So we need to talk strongly about this. We heard when the minister said this is a ministry that when attention is being given, we'll discover quite a number of money revenue from that place. So I hope that the government will put their hands together and say, what can we do to stop illegal mining? Is it providing jobs for people who are unemployed? Because most of the youth that are there, that has been their excuse. We do not have anything to do, so we've decided to do that. And they are fetching quite a number of money, Rachel. Very huge amount of money from illegal mining. So if the government can actually have a collaboration with those people, make it legal, let the money get back into the country, then I think something positive can come out of it eventually.
Of course, Stella, I believe one of the number one fight the government should in taking back mining is not allowing foreigners to come and mine, Stella. I believe that this is one well that can be kept just within us in this country. Let's be in complete and total control of the mining procedures and also the exportation of these minerals, and also the use in this country. I keep saying that one of the things that affects us is that we do not even have the industries to process these minerals. So we are left with no option, just like with the crude oil. We drill the crude oil, we send it out, and it's brought back to us refined. It's the same thing for each and every mineral in this country. We mine them, and then we take it out, and then it's being brought back to us as finished product, more expensive. And this is where I want to see the government focus, that first of all, we are in at least 70% in control of the mining activities of this country. And if we have foreigners, they should be at least 10%, and then the 20% can be to the locals, that is Nigerians who are into mining, having this license to them, and then the government is in 70% control. This is where we can be able to see states generating revenue. It will shock you to know that these states that have very high minerals, solid minerals, are states that are owing workers, have not implemented minimum wage, are still having debt back and forth from banks, from the federal government. These are states that are still struggling economically, and then you wonder why, when you have this much wealth in your state. So it means you need to be in control of it, full flesh and all of that. And of course, it's really sad that we have so many lives being lost, because if you see it, there's no agreement to it, there's no papers, it's illegal mining. So it's one of the very risky jobs in Nigeria.
Insurance,
yes,
whatsoever.
no insurance, nothing. You just go out there, let's go mining, you get a rope tied along you, and sometimes there is a landslide, and then you're buried, and you just have a grave there that maybe years later you'll be dug up, and then people will wonder who is this person and all of that. And it's really sad, because in as much as there are people who are hitting jackpot when it comes to this mining, at the same time there are people losing their lives to it. So we are just looking forward to the government. If the government can only be in full control of this, then we won't even see such instances, because now you will be insured, you will be covered as an individual, you will be employed, whatever hazard that comes with the job, you will be covered, and then your family will know all of this. But except the right thing is being put in place, we will keep doing this. So I believe that the fight against illegal mining, it is a serious one, and every state government should take it seriously, because we are looking at states with many solid minerals and yet struggling to pay workers. It shouldn't be in the first place.
We look forward to that, Richard.
Yes.
Honestly, it's really something we all look forward to seeing our government taking full control of. Let's round up a few stories still on the Metrics newspaper. Jubilation as Akeredolu returns to Nigeria. You can find more of that story in the paper. CBN NCC resolved the 120 billion naira USSD debt between the banks and telcos. This is a fight that has been going on for quite a number of years, starting from last year. So we hope they will be able to come to an agreement soon. Nigeria's gas revenue fell by 3 trillion naira in 12 months. This is a report. You can do well to read more detail of that report in the paper. We have a picture story where we see President Bola Tinubu meet with Nigerians residing in India yesterday. It's good to actually meet up with people out there. And that is all on the Metrics newspaper.
On Nigerian Tribune, 10 arrested over killing of 200 level FUOYE student. Body found in shallow grave behind lecture hall. What a sad one. You can find more details on page 26. Akeredolu returns, may hold meeting in Ibadan today. Court restrains Oyo government from installing Olaoye. You can find more details on page 23. And on commissioners, Lagos Assembly confirms Omotoso Obayomi, 13 others reject 2. The big story, Atiku Obi, why we are going to Supreme Court. Election court judgment lacks justice. I rejected, coming from the ex-vice president. Election petition will be non-existent if INEC discharges its function transparently. A statement coming from the Labour Party candidate. Amend Electoral Act to ensure conclusion of litigation before swearing in. Statement coming from CUPP. APC pleads with Atiku Obi to join in nation building. We have Adeboruwa, Aliyu, Clark, others speak. You can find more details on page 3 and 27. 19 kidnapped in FCT Council. Wike may hold emergency security meeting. We have 30 die in landslide. $46 billion crude oil stolen in Nigeria in 11 years. And we have Army court-martial 14 officers, 9 soldiers for various offenses. More details can be found on page 23. And that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
On the Nation newspaper, Nigeria, Australia to partner on training of local miners. I'm happy to hear such story reflected on the paper. You can do well to find more detail on page 5. Customs stops defaulting bank from revenue collection. Customs stops defaulting banks from revenue collection. You can find on page 7. Akeredolu recuperating in Ibadan on return from vacation. Lagos Assembly drops 2 Sanwo-Olu new nominees. You can find both stories on page 6. And on oil theft, we have firms, MDAs, host communities involved, says security chiefs. You can find more of that story on page 6. And since we know these are the people that might be involved in this, I think it's high time we do something better. This is coming from the Lieutenant General, and he's saying that communities are involved, chiefs are involved, firms are involved, MBAs are even involved in all of this, and we keep losing. Even on the paper, I've seen OPEC is talking about our quota keep dropping again.
Yes.
You remember when I said we're excited that we are now above Tanzania? Now they are going to take over again. So what are we hoping to do about that? So quite a number of things. This oil theft is something that breaks my heart, Richard, and that's why I want us to look into other dimension. I want us to, as a country, let us do something about our own refineries here in the country. We've been promised that Port Harcourt refinery will set up this month, so we're keeping our fingers crossed to hear it on our papers and see that workers are there working. We are seeing oil is being refined there, and then we are sure that things are working. Then we take refinery too. We are hoping to hear something. We have been promised that it's supposed to start working in August, September. So we hope something will come out positively there. Let's stop sending our oil back there. I mean, I was listening to you on business and finance, some of the mineral resources we have and what we can do with it. I was kind of breathtaking. I was like, just imagine what is wasting, and then we keep sending it out there. And then they keep using whatever they're able to take out of the crude oil when we're supposed to do something about that. So we're looking forward to seeing synergy coming from our government, so that if only we're doing that, then I believe that the issue of oil theft keep coming up on our paper will reduce drastically, because the government have done what they are supposed to do to protect these resources that we have in the country.
And of course, let's improve our technology, because one of the excuse that was given, and I believe is very flimsy, is concerning technology. This is our major revenue source in the country. We should be high on every technological development when it comes to protecting the seashores, the in and out of. We should have a technology that can detect, no matter how little or tiny a vessel is. Let that technology be able to detect a very tiny boat. Talk more of a big vessel that is carrying
Richard, are you
millions
sure we don't
of
have
gallons.
that?
I mean, if they put it out there, then let's assume perhaps it's true, and then let them up their game when it comes to tech. We're just taking them by their words, of course. If that is an excuse, we're taking it. Do something about it so that tomorrow we will not see it as an excuse again. Do the needful and do everything that it takes, because yes, there is so much when it comes to this crude oil theft, and I am waiting to see them really publish and the image of these people, that because we are seeing from it that they are going to let us know the people behind oil theft. I'm trying to see our justice or the fight against corruption in Nigeria taking a new form, when eventually we will know the people who are truly behind oil theft in this country. And it should be like the big lions in the game, not just the babies under the real cartel. Let's, when you bust the real people in this thing, put it out there. This is when we will truly know that we have finally found ourselves in a system that is willing to fight corruption and put an end to oil theft in the country.
We can only do that, Richard, if we take the rule of law seriously in this country.
Yes.
That is, regardless of who you are, no matter your
Of
status,
course.
you are being exposed. I mean, we got that last year when the UAE told us that they have names of those who are sponsoring Boko Haram.
Boko
Till
Haram.
date, we
And
yet
up
to
till
hear
today.
anything about that.
Yes.
So we hope something positive come out of all of this story. Well, let's continue with the Nation newspaper, where we have Wike Atiku Tambuwal killing PDP should be suspended. You can find more of that story on page 3. Atiku Obi, why we are challenging tribunal verdict. Don't go to Supreme Court. Bello Wike Bruce urges PDP and Labour Party candidates. And APC judgment reinforces democracy, judiciary vibrance. And coming from Obi, he said that judgment is not contagious with justice. Atiku said the decision of the court falls far short of my expectation. And APC said the outcome remains a wholesale endorsement of our party's vision. You can find more detail of that in the paper. Tinubu promises better future with good leadership. You can start reading from the front page and continue inside the paper. Minister give NIS 2 weeks to clear outstanding passports. You can find that also on page 4. And that is all on the Nation newspaper.
On Blueprint newspaper, we have police probe medical doctor over alleged harvest of housewife's organ. You can find more details on page 7, and this is happening in Plateau State. Tunji Ojo orders clearance of 200,000 passport backlogs in 2 weeks. Ondo Governor Keredulo returns after 3-month medical trip. The big story article on presidential tribunal ruling, we lost the battle but not the war. The writers are under the stories. You can find more details on page 6. Banks to clear 120 billion naira USSD debt to telecom companies. This is coming from Dambata. You can find more details on page 23. Naira weakens to 930 to a dollar as black market at black market as dollar scarcity persists. And we are looking, starting the week as at Monday, the dollar was gaining some value of 747 naira to a dollar, and now we are seeing that the free fall continues. And at the black market, in as much as the CBN put in mechanism for working, saying that there is going to be a limit to how much the Bureau de Change operators can operate, the minimum and then maximum. However, we are seeing that now the unification is no longer unified. The black market is back, and we are seeing it going way above the official exchange rate. I just hope that the Central Bank of Nigeria alongside the presidency really know what they're doing concerning the exchange rate of the country. Nigeria may take 300 years to cross infrastructure gap. A statement coming from the World Bank. I mean, 300 years is a lot of years, but I believe
Richard, this is not
they
the
have
first time
a
World
reason
Bank
for
is telling
that.
us this.
Yes,
I can remember it was on the paper last year and it's coming up on the paper this year. That is to tell you that we have quite a lot
of
do.
work and
A
fast.
lot of work to do, Rachel,
Yes.
if to cover up on infrastructure. Take a look at some of the developing countries, the quite developed countries, let me say, developed countries. Let's not even go far. Let's start from African countries within, just our neighboring countries here. You ask yourself question: how many years did it take these countries to be
build what
this
they have.
developed that they are? And how long will it take us as a country? How comes we keep going to these places to patronize them and then we were not doing something
not
about
doing
doing that?
truth
Let's take a
seller.
interest in some of these countries that some of the islands they have there are even man-made. Some of the infrastructure there, it took them years to be able to develop it. So why can't we do the same, Rachel? It's still the same thing we're saying, Rachel. We have all that it takes.
Yes,
What we are
we
lacking is
do.
leadership. And I hope, just like the president have said here, that he is here to set the ball rolling. So I think Nigerians are going to take their pen and biro, their
Yes, of
papers,
course.
write this down, and watch him closely to be sure that he's going to leave an example for other leaders to follow. Let us see if it's taking us 300 years. Let me see how many years a president can
Close the gap.
cover
Yes.
to this 300 years, because it's quite a number of years, Rachel. By then, you and I are not even here again if it's
course
about
not,
300
Sele.
years.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's sad when you see
It
stories
is
like
sad,
this on the paper.
But we are having the capacity. We just hope that we do that. 300 is a lot, and truly, Sele, when you look at our infrastructure, we are very
Way
backward.
behind.
We don't need people to tell us that we can see it, but then it means that we need to be fast on closing the gap. If not, by the time we are moving forward with the way other countries are moving, the gears will keep increasing for us to get there. And the last story on the paper, we have troops kill 814 terrorists, arrest 1,326 criminals in 3 months, rescue 721 kidnapped victims, recover over 6 million liters of crude oil. You can find more details of that story on page 6, and that's all the news on Blueprint newspaper.
All right, let me quickly round it up with the Guardian newspaper. 30 killed in Abuja landslide, 19 kidnapped, and then Wiki ordered surveillance. You can find more inside the paper. We have let the hammer fall on same-sex union. We remember we saw an arrest was done in Delta State, and we're seeing here that let the hammer fall because already a bill has been passed. No same-sex union whatsoever. You can find more detail of that story inside the paper. And we have poor lessons from 2020, which is the big story. Endless weight of palliative in state amid accountability deficit. Here we're seeing the picture.
Don't want us to link, don't want to link us. How are you?
We're fine, thank you. Good morning, sir.
Yes, Shaman calling from Kaduna.
All right, Mr. Shama, try and summarize your point, please.
My sisters, yeah, I'm with you. Honestly, we saw drama on Wednesday. The judicial that people expected, much of them, was truncated by my own knowledge. The hope of the common man is the judiciary. But if justice can be truncated, then I don't know where we are going in this country. But we pray that let those that are taking judgment in this world know that they have the highest judge that will judge every one of us. Because we saw it play out that there was no justice on Wednesday. How can all aspirants be turned off by just one person? All allegations that were known for, all those allegations were turned off. Then what kind of country do we have? But we pray that Tinubu will get it right. If it is the will of God that Tinubu is there and he will be there, let him rescue Nigeria, because we have suffered since 2015 till then. The hardship in this country, my two sisters, everybody is not unaware of what we are passing through this country. Hardly can you see a family feeding 2 square meals, talk less of 3 square meals. We pray that Tinubu, that say we should pray for him, our prayers will work for him, so that we change the narrative of Nigeria for goodness, because enough of our suffering. Good morning, my sisters.
Good morning.
Thank you so much, Shama from Kaduna, for that contribution on issues like this. Do you have something to add?
Of course, Sele, it's just the prayer for Tinubu that let him be the one that takes Nigeria out of the hardship we are, and that's just our prayers now. It's not about going back and forth anymore. It's all about saying this is our president, and let God use him to be the change that Nigeria needs. Yes.
Honestly, that's just it. Well, still on the Guardian, let me round it up. Atiku Obi rejects the PEPC ruling, head for the Supreme Court. You can find that inside the paper. Nigeria needs prayer to end insecurity, says the defense minister. You can find more. We have the picture story here. We can see the governor of Borno State while sharing the palliative, and that is backing up the big story where we see the endless wait. Well, I think this is a call to all governors that are yet to actually share the palliative, the money, the grains have been sent. So please do save to actually share it, because a lot of Nigerians are actually very, very hungry. Thank you so much, Rachel, for doing this with me. And thank you, Shamal, for the call that you called this morning. Thank you for the prayer. Thank you to our crew members. Thank you, everybody, our supporter and our viewers, for always keeping a date with us on the dailies. Until we come here again next week, please do have a blessed weekend ahead.